Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed, lab-proven to work fast, and proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, you know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
People pay good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth.
Everyone pretend podcasting isn't boring.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
منو هاي؟ لا
أماني أماني حبيبتي، عرفت على زهرة. زهرة هي زوجتي الثانية. هي بتعيش معانا هني في البيت.
عندي سؤال، هل طبيعي إنه خالد كل يوم في الليل هو نايم يقعد يتكلم؟
نفس الشيء قاعد يستوي في البيت.
بعد البداية بس.
Hey folks, welcome to a special episode of the Projection Booth. I'm your host, Mike White. On this episode, I'm talking with Majid Al Ansari, all about his new film, The Vial. It's currently playing festivals, including the Fantastic Fest. If you are down in Austin, definitely check it out. Otherwise, keep your eyes open for The Vial 2025, coming to a festival or theater, hopefully, near you. I would love to hear a little bit more about you and how you decided to get into filmmaking.
When I was in high school, I graduated I went to Long Beach. I was supposed to study business. Being an Arab kid in early 2000s, that's what's expected from you. But then I just fell into music. That's how it actually essentially started, just music production. And then from there, it just evolved for me coming back and then going to the music college and then coming back. There was nothing for me to do other than be a DJ and get paid $1,000 for the rest of my life. But I was lucky at that time, the capital, Abu Dhabi, where I'm from, started investing in entertainment. And one of the companies that they opened up was Imagination and so on. So I started interning there. That was I still love the art. Of course, I love music. And that was an easy transition for me to get into film. And then from there, just slowly worked my way up the ladder. I was an intern on a Toby Hooper movie that was shot here. And I was actually his driver for a month. And then did themed warehouses, equipment houses. And then slowly built my way up, did my first short film. And Imagination put me as a junior executive. And then from there, I pitched my first film, which was called Rattle the Cage, aka Zinzana in Arabic, which was in the Fantastic Fest almost 10 years ago. And then from there, I went on to making my second film now, which took 10 years apart, but I was doing TV series in the middle.
Tell me about Rattle the Cage. Where did you actually shoot that?
We shot that in Jordan. It's a one location set build. It was a blacklist script by two brilliant writers, Ruckus and Lane Sky, which was a Southern American film. But when I read it, it's a pure genre film contained in one location. I'm like, okay, this is a perfect. I was 25, 26 at the time. I'm like, all right, if someone's going to roll the dice on me, it must be this smaller film. And I pitched it to Imagination and we got in and then we shot it in Jordan. And yeah, we finished it there. The production of it was there. And then the post-production of it was here in Dubai. Rattle Cage was one of the first few films, actually might have been one of the first few genre films that came out from the region. And not only in the UAE, but now we've seen a lot of production coming in from large-scale Hollywood productions like Dune, but also at the same time, you're seeing a lot of independent filmmakers here making Arabic movies, whether it's in different genres. There's another horror film coming out from the UAE this year, and then there's another large-scale drama, local drama, regional drama that's coming out. So it's nice to see there's multiple films coming out. And back in the days when I did Rattle the Cage, it was one movie a year or two movies a year, maybe. We are almost 5-6 movies every quarter. So it's nice to see it slowly growing. But yeah, it's exciting, especially with the Saudi market now opening up because we are from the same region. We consume the same stuff. That's a monster market to be that we all hope that will sustain us as independent or local filmmakers, I'd say.
Do I remember right, too, that you've produced a lot of stuff?
Yeah.
What is that like to be a producer rather than just directing?
See, directing by itself is different than being a director-writer, which I've learned in this film because I was a director for hire on Rattle the Cage. I found the script, but essentially I wasn't involved in writing the script. But it's also very different when you're a producer on a film. I think it's great because, to be frank, it's great to see other people doing mistakes. That's part of it. And then you being in the back kind of trying to save it and or even guiding them and making their vision come to life without enforcing any. And that's one thing that I did as a producer is making sure that I never interfere as a director. That director had his way far away from the set. But it's nice work with other directors and see how their process is, whether the things I agree with or don't agree with. I've learned both ways. So it's always great to be a producer on set. But I do enjoy directing way more than producing, I'd say, to be very frankly. And I actually do enjoy directing. Of course, I love developing scripts, but this is what I found with The Vow that was a bit tough is because I wrote it and directed it, it was just so personal. It's a story that comes from my community and it came from me growing up and the story I had in my head. I just didn't know how to tackle it or the subject matter for 15, 12 years. So it was tougher for me to direct this one just because it felt like closer to home. I might not be co-writing it. I might give it to a very talented writer to write it and I'll just direct it.
Well, yeah, so it sounds like this one took a long time to gestate. Was there a moment where it finally flipped and you go, this is the key to this movie?
Yes, yeah. It was just a slow process because I knew I wanted to talk about the subject matter, but also knew I wanted to talk about it in a fun way where a person would watch it, would actually enjoy it and not fall into the drama too much. but yet respect the subject matter, which is about polygamy and about multi-marriages. For me, it was an instance where there was a friend that, and we were locked in somewhere, and he wanted to come out, and he was so excited for the weekend. And then I found out that he's married a second wife. And at this age is very different than my father's generation or my grandfather's generation, where the UAE is really pushing the women empowerment, where we have women in high position in government and in private sectors. And so it's not as, I'd say, as common as it used to be. But this young guy just was going to do it. And it was, frankly, we're a group of guys, and we're a bit surprised. But I think we're more surprised into the fact that he was doing it, and not then the first wife doesn't know about it. She has no clue. I think that brought me up to a question. I'm like, and I'm a father of two daughters. I'm like, how would my daughters feel? How would I feel? How would my wife feel? And I started questioning that. And that really pushed me and propelled me. And even though I had it, I've seen in my community for 10, 15 years, I think that instance, I knew, I'm like, okay, this is where what my angle is for this movie and what I would justify. But now looking at it, I'm like, it just makes total sense. That's how we want to do it. Is really let the character, let Amani, or here, take us on a journey of what she would feel like going through this process step by step, and how it comes from the beginning until the end. And that kind of spurred me into doing massive research and getting people, even though I've grown around it, I want to get the deep cuts, I say, of the subject matter. And through the research, it just kind of started getting clearer and clearer of what this movie should be.
Did you run it past any women and say, does this ring true?
Of course. Oh no, there's lines that were taken from my family households and some taken from other family. And also my actress, Badur, is a large part of, I'd say, rewriting it as we're shooting it. And because she was very close to the subject matter. So I really leaned onto her, and a lot of times, and heard her voice, whether I like it or not. I just wanted, for me, it was chasing honesty and chasing the truthfulness. And then, of course, there's the horror. That's the fun part of it. But I still wanted to be true to the voice of the women of the region that go through this. And that was the ignition.
Tell me a little bit about your co-writer.
So Johnny is another writer, brilliant writer, who I met from the Blacklist. There was a script that I read. I'm an avid Blacklist reader, and I love it. My first script came from the Blacklist website. And I met Johnny, and I met a lot of talented writers from around the world on the Blacklist. So Johnny was one of the really talented writers that I've met, and we've developed a few projects before this one. And then me and him had the conversation. It wasn't easy. I think which rightfully he comes from Canada, and maybe the subject matter is not the one that I should delve into with you, and maybe you need a local writer. But my issue is I love the way he really thought of structuring the scripts and how he writes. I think we had a great relationship. I'm like, the cultural stuff and the stuff that'll come from me, and I don't need to worry anything about that. But I need your help with how we structure the horror and how we bring it in and how we bring it out. And so, he was a great companion, and it was a great partner to have on the project.
Can you tell me how the cast came together?
Essentially, we had a set date to shoot the movie, but then the last second I couldn't find the right Amani or the right hero. And I really wanted someone that really understands this, that they really whether she went through it or she had family members, or someone really close to her home that went through it. And the cinema scene isn't big, you wouldn't understand. But what we have here in the UAE is a big theater movement and community. So it was just by accident me going to the Sharjah Theater Festival. And the first show that came on, which I really loved, it was her being the hero of it. I still remember this. I was watching it, and I ended up crying. And then I was tearing up. I'm like, the story was very beautiful. The stage director was incredible. The acting everyone did an incredible job. But she had this energy in her, and I just couldn't. I'm like, all right, because we've already casted everyone else but her, so I had to recast everyone and put her in the center point. And of course, after our first meeting, me sitting, other than her being very extremely talented, me sitting with her and her telling me what she went through from her family members and what she knows about this subject matter, I knew she was the right person. And so therefore we recasted everyone so we could have her lead the project.
Why the recasting?
It didn't fit. The way she was, her age group, who she was as a woman, her energy, for me, that just didn't, it just said, well, with the other cast that we had already, because we had someone to play Amani in the beginning. That didn't work out. She pulled out. So therefore, I was stuck with everyone else but the lead. But then when I found the lead, that's everything. It's like a puzzle that everything fell in its right place. So we had to, unfortunately, they were very talented and extreme talented, but they just didn't fit the family that I saw in my head with Bidur or the actress that plays Amani.
Did you still make your shoot date?
We ended up pushing it for 2 months, 3 months to just prep, just to get her, because she had a theater, and then so we just pushed for 2-3 months. So almost.
When did you actually shoot this?
We shot this in 2023, around end of August. We started shooting it, and then we went till September, and then editing process of editing, which was one of my most, it was my aha moment in this movie, where for Rattle the Cage, I knew exactly how I'm shooting the film. I know exactly how I'm cutting this movie, right? And I went in pretty much 6-7 months. I was done with editing, and we were in the online. I think with this one, it was a bit different. That I tried doing that, and I realized, smacked me back in the face. It's like, all right, this movie's not speaking to me. And I realized that going with that attitude would be the worst thing to do with this kind of movie. And that's what I've learned. And I spoke to a very close director friend of mine from Jordan, Majid Al Ansari, and who did an incredible movie called Veep. And he advised me, he's like, listen, you are trying to fight of taking it from a 2-hour movie, let's say, to an hour and 45 minutes. And then there's something in the middle that's not working, right? And you're trying to cut. And one should just go the opposite. Take it to sacrifice it. Go to 85 minutes, 90 minutes, and then find out what you want to add to the movie instead of what you want to cut from the movie. And I think that was my biggest moment where I really realized, okay, what this film is. And then when I started doing that, the film started speaking to me, the character started speaking to me. Amani as a character and the story itself, the film started saying to me what this film needs and what scene is needed, what's not needed, instead of me enforcing myself and my style and my rhythm into the movie.
How was the actual shoot itself? Did you have any difficulties?
It was great. It was incredible. I had a great James, who was my first AD. I had, of course, one of my an incredible partner, my cinematographer, Benjamin, who shot The Watcher, and then he came, which is another spooky magician movie, and then he came on this, and we were a tight ship on time, and we shot on 16, so that was one of the exciting. I've shot on 16 I dabbled in the beginning, but to shoot the film, that was an incredible process. It just made it more to lose. I had way more to lose if I did mess ups, but it went smoothly. I couldn't be luckier.
Yeah, I could really see the film in the movie, which was so nice. It's almost like a special effect these days.
When I did my first, we just worked so hard with a fog machine and go into the color grain and put on the grain and so on. This one, we just shot it and it went to post. We cut it and literally the color grade was tuck, tuck, and that's it. We didn't need to do all the runaround that we do on digital. I was lucky. I don't think my next film I'll be able to pull it off again. It's just because there's no Kodak film. So we had to shoot everything here. We had to ship all the film here and then shoot everything, store it, and then ship it back to the UK and then process it and then know whether 5 days later, whether our film is intact or not, or if we messed up or not. So a lot of the film was filmed on stage. So it came to a point where we're going to strike the stage. And I'm not going to have the set design anymore. But yet the last batch of film hasn't come back. And it's 5 more, we need to wait 5 more days. So there was that nervousness to it. But thank God, everything came out good. I was lucky.
Quite a leap of faith every single day, it sounds like.
Especially when you don't have a lab next to you.
Your DP did a wonderful job. It looks so good.
He did. Yeah. No, Benjamin was incredible. He was incredible. So professional and so on the point. It was, as I said, like a tight run ship, and we just banged out the shots. And we had a lot of room for improvisation, which we did a lot in this movie because, and as I said, having Badur, Amani, who plays the main character, even the Noor, who plays her daughter, I wanted to keep that space for the actors to be actors. And I didn't want to enforce like a certain thing. Because because I think the main thing, other than the horror scares and the horror sequences I have in the movie, which was, of course, like shot listed and we storyboarded those parts. But for me, I think the heart of this movie is the drama, that family dynamic that we have. So we had to just keep that space for them. And we improvised a lot. We improvised more than I anticipated, but that was the beauty of it, because there's certain times you go in. There's a beautiful scene in the movie where Amani, our main character, our hero, is watching after her husband comes to her and says, "Hey, I have someone else," and he forces this thing on her, this situation on her, and she's just watching and reminiscing of her. She's watching them on the TV of their wedding days, like the good days. And for our culture, that day, and I always hear from my mom, right? She always has that picture of it's just such a big, because back in the days, and it still happens today, not as often, it still happens a lot. I'm saying 50-50, where it's a lot of his arranged marriages, family members knowing each other. And it's not in the sense where, hey, you don't see each other. No, not always. Sometimes it happens, but there are scenarios where they will speak to each other on the phone, and when they go out on a date, it's a whole two families together, and it becomes this awkward situation. But for my mom, and I always hear it, for her, that wedding day was a big thing. And there's a VHS tape, there is a picture, and so on and so forth. So there was a moment in the movie where she's watching and reminiscing them back and looking back at what they were once upon a time. And she just felt a different way than what we anticipated in the movie. And for me as a director, I wanted to keep that space for her. And it turned out to be one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And it's just her watching the TV, and the emotions that you see there is as honest as it could be. I was surprised. I was floored, and I just didn't know how to speak to her at that moment. I just let her go. And you know what? You know how this feels. So take this if you will.
I'm glad you were able to allow that improvisation, even though you're shooting on film, which seems like that would kind of limit the amount that you could do.
I think I was lucky having Steven and having Roy, having Ben and Derek and the magician, the spooky team, where they really, I remember having the call. I was so nervous the first weekend. And I remember having this call from Ben Ross, and he's, listen, you just go get the movie you want. Get the movie. Of course, with the winter restraints, don't go crazy. But he really pushed me to, if the actors are not, if you're not getting the actors to get to a point where you want them to get to, or they're not feeling that they've got to the point they want to, let's use extra film. We could buy more 2, 3, 4, 5 other roles to get that emotions across.
So 10 years later, you're back at the Fantastic Fest. How does that feel for you?
Incredible. Love it. I love the festival. That was a life-changing experience for me the first time. Before that first time I went to, I was like interning the film commission. So the delegation would go Cannes, would go Sundance, but the magic that I saw in Fantastic Fest is unequivalent to anything else. There's this sense of a community and sense of love for the genre itself that I really felt in the first film when I did Rattle the Cage. And since then, I've always been looking forward to my next one, to come to Fantastic again. So really excited.
Do you know where it's going after this?
We're going to Sitges after this, and then we're going to premiere at London Film Festival, BFI.
Is there a good place for people to keep up with the film?
We have the Imagination Instagram page. They update a lot about the movie. I think that's the main source. From what I know, maybe there are some, but I think then Imagination page is the main source.
Mr. Al Ansari, thank you so much for your time. This was great.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters. And Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.